If you aren't listed on multiple platforms, you're leaving thousands of dollars a year on the table. Simple as that. In this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how to maximize your short-term rental earnings by leveraging multiple booking platforms. Hi, I'm James Fedek, co-author of Airbnb for Dummies and one of the world's leading short-term rental educators. Over my 8 years of hosting through every market cycle, I've personally managed dozens of listings while earning a full-time income myself and traveling the world full-time. I've been featured in some of the world's biggest publications and helped thousands of hosts to level up their hosting. Through BNB Mastery, I've helped over 800 hosts to optimize their business, plus helped over 700 people launch successful co-hosting careers. I'm here to help you with your short-term rental. Most hosts think that listing on multiple platforms is going to be overwhelming, time-consuming, and just not worth the headache. But what if I told you that within the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how to effectively list on multiple platforms without creating more work for yourself? Even better, I'm going to break down exactly which platform is best for your specific property, so you can start getting more bookings right away. Plus, if you stick around till the end, I'm going to share a secret about using these platforms together that most hosts don't know about. And it could easily add an extra 20 to 30% to your bottom line. So whether you're already listing on multiple platforms and want to optimize your strategy, or you're thinking about expanding beyond just Airbnb, this video is going to be a complete game changer for your hosting business. And by the way, drop a comment down below and let me know which specific platform you're most interested in. Now, let's dive right in with a complete breakdown of each of the major platforms. Now, before we have a look at each platform individually, it's important to understand the key differences between them. You see, a lot of hosts make the mistake of treating every platform like they're the exact same. They'll take their Airbnb listing, copy and paste it over into VRBO and Booking.com, and then wonder why they're not getting any bookings. The reality is that each platform attracts very different types of guests. And if you're not tailoring your approach to each platform specifically, then you're gonna end up struggling to get bookings. Now here's what I mean by that. Airbnb started as a platform for hosting travelers in spare rooms, and while it's evolved far beyond that, it still attracts guests who are looking for unique experiences and personal connections. VRBO, on the other hand, has always focused exclusively on entire home rentals. They built their entire platform around family vacations and group trips, which means that their guests often have very different expectations from Airbnb guests. And then there's Booking.com, which started as a hotel booking platform. Their guests are usually looking for a more traditional hospitality experience, and they often book much closer to their travel dates. Understanding these differences is absolutely crucial because it's going to impact everything from how you price your property to how you communicate with your guests. Now, let's break down each platform in detail, starting with Airbnb. After all, this is where most of us got our start in short-term rentals, and it's still the largest platform in the industry. Let's start with who's actually booking on Airbnb. Airbnb guests tend to be a bit younger, usually between 25 and 44 years old. They're often more tech savvy, and they're looking for unique experiences rather than just a place to sleep. This means that on Airbnb, your photos and listing description need to tell a story. You need to help guests envision themselves staying in your place. And when it comes to pricing, Airbnb takes a service fee of between 14 and 16% from hosts. Technically, they give hosts the option of whether they want to absorb this entire fee themselves or pass part of it along to the guests, but at the end of the day, the result is the same. Airbnb costs hosts between 14 and 16%. Now, this might sound high, but Airbnb offers some significant advantages that can obviously make it worth it. First off, they provide up to $3 million in damage protection through air cover. This is a massive benefit that a lot of hosts don't fully appreciate until they actually need to use it. They also have one of the most robust booking systems out there. You can set custom pricing rules, create special offers, and even offer early check-in or late checkout for an additional fee. But here's where most hosts go wrong on Airbnb. They don't take advantage of all the platform features that could help them get more bookings. For example, Airbnb's search algorithm heavily favors listings that maintain a high response rate and fast response times. If you're not responding to inquiries within 24 hours, then you're probably showing up lower in the search results than you should be and could be. Another big mistake that I see hosts make is not optimizing their listing for Airbnb categories. When Airbnb rolled out this categories features, it completely changed how guests search for properties. If your listing isn't properly categorized, then you're likely missing out on a whole bunch of visibility. And don't even get me started on their dynamic pricing suggestions. While Airbnb does provide pricing recommendations, they're often way off the mark. I've seen cases where following Airbnb's suggested prices would have left thousands on the table. That's why I always recommend using a specialized dynamic pricing tool instead of relying on Airbnb suggestions. If you want more details on exactly how to dial every single aspect of your Airbnb listing in as much as possible, then be sure to join BNB Tribe at the link in the description down below. In case you're new here and you're unsure what BNB Tribe even is, it's our exclusive community of Airbnb and short-term rental hosts from all over the world. We've got all kinds of awesome training, tools, templates, over $4,000 in discounts and perks on Airbnb and short-term rental related products and services, plus an active community of hosts and weekly calls with me and the rest of the community. It's an amazing place to learn more about how to improve your hosting, so be sure to check it out at the link in the description down below. All right, now let's move on to VRBO, because this is where things get really interesting, especially if you have a larger property or vacation rental. First off, VRBO's typical guest is between 35 and 55 years old. They're usually traveling with family, and they tend to book much further in advance than Airbnb guests. These guests are also typically willing to spend more per night, but they have higher expectations when it comes to the basics. They want things like well-equipped kitchens, plenty of seating for everyone, and crystal clear check-in instructions. Now, here's where VRBO really shines. It's gonna be family vacation rentals and larger properties. If your place has 3 or more bedrooms, VRBO should absolutely be a part of your strategy. When it comes to fees, VRBO is pretty similar to Airbnb. Hosts pay a per booking fee and guests pay an additional service fee. The exact percentages vary, but it's generally around 20%. And this is where a lot of hosts get tripped up. They look at those fees compared to Airbnb and they think VRBO just isn't really worth it. But here's what they're missing. There's nothing stopping you from raising your prices on VRBO so that you still end up earning just as much as you would on Airbnb. And because many of the guests on VRBO have higher budgets, you'll still very likely get booked even with those higher rates. Plus, VRBO has something that most hosts don't take advantage of, their Premier Host program. It's similar to Airbnb's Superhost status, but it actually gives you more benefits, including better visibility in search results and priority customer support. But there is a catch with VRBO that you really should know about. Their search algorithm works completely differently from Airbnb. While Airbnb focuses heavily on response times and review scores, VRBO puts a lot more weight on your booking history on their platform. This means when you first list on VRBO, you might need to price a bit lower for your first few bookings to build up that booking history. Once you do though, VRBO can be incredibly profitable. I actually had a student in BNB Tribe who focused heavily on VRBO for his lake house property, and within 6 months, he was getting more bookings through VRBO than through Airbnb, and at higher nightly rates. Another important thing to note about VRBO is that their cancellation policies are different. They're much stricter than Airbnb's, which can actually be a really good thing for you as a host. You have more protection against last minute cancellations, and guests tend to be more committed to their bookings. One final important note to make about VRBO is that depending on your business setup, you may actually need to process guest payments yourself using a service like Stripe or Square. Now, I know that seems a bit daunting at first, but the truth is it actually is pretty simple. And once you've got the system set up, it should run just as smoothly as Airbnb, and it gives you a lot more control. Now let's talk about Booking.com, because this is where most hosts either get overwhelmed or completely miss the opportunity. Here's the thing about Booking.com. It's actually the largest accommodation platform in the entire world, but most short-term rental hosts don't even consider it because they think it's just for hotels. And that's a huge mistake. Booking.com has something that neither Airbnb nor VRBO can match: massive international reach. In Europe and Asia, Booking.com is often the go-to platform for travelers, even more than Airbnb. But there is a catch. Booking.com guests have very different expectations. These guests are usually comparing your property directly against hotels. They're looking for a more professional, streamlined experience. They want instant booking, flexible cancellation policies, and they often book much closer to their travel dates. When it comes to fees, Booking.com typically charges between 15 and 20% commission. Now again, that might seem high, but once again, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from simply raising your prices to account for the additional fees. Booking.com works particularly well for certain types of properties though. If you have a smaller place, think studio, 1 bedroom, maybe 2 bedroom units, especially in urban areas, Booking.com can be an absolute gold mine. I actually had one host in BNB Tribe who listed his downtown condo on Booking.com and saw his occupancy rate jump by 30% in just the first month. Why? because he was tapping into a completely different pool of travelers from what he was getting elsewhere. If your listing tends to get a lot of international guests, Booking.com can also be really great for that too. Another BNB Tribe member is now getting almost 80% of his bookings through Booking.com because he caters a lot to international guests from Asia. But there are some important things you need to know before jumping on to Booking.com. First off, their platform is designed for hotels, which means that some of the features that you're used to on Airbnb or VRBO might work quite a bit differently. For example, you'll need to be much more specific about your check-in procedures, since many guests will expect a front desk. They also have stricter requirements around response times and booking policies. You typically need to accept all bookings that come through unless you have a really good reason not to. And here's something that catches a lot of hosts off guard. The payment system works differently. While Airbnb and VRBO collect payments from guests and then pay you, on Booking.com, you're often responsible for collecting payment from the guest directly. Now, this means a few really important things that you need to be aware of. First, you'll need a proper payment processing system in place. You can't just expect guests to show up with cash or send you a bank transfer. You need a way to securely process credit card payments like Stripe or Square. Second, you're responsible for handling any payment disputes or chargebacks. Unlike Airbnb, where they mediate payment issues on your behalf, on Booking.com, you'll need to deal with these situations yourself. And third, this is super important, you need to be extra careful about fraud. Since you're processing payments directly, you'll want to have clear procedures for verifying guest identities and validating credit card information. But don't let this scare you away. There are great payment processing solutions out there that can handle a lot of this for you and make it work effectively. Many channel managers, including Hostaway, integrate seamlessly with payment processing tools that make this whole process a whole lot smoother. And if you can navigate these differences, Booking.com can be an incredible addition to your overall platform strategy. Now, I know you're thinking, managing 3 different platforms sounds like a massive headache. And you're right, it would be if you try to do it manually. But here's where things get exciting. There are tools that can automate almost all of this integration. The first thing you absolutely need is a channel manager. This is a tool that connects all your platforms together and automatically syncs your calendars, your pricing, and even your messages all into one place. Without a channel manager, you'd be risking double bookings, missed messages, and a whole lot of stress. Trust me, I learned this one the hard way when I first started expanding to multiple platforms myself. Now, there are several channel managers out there, but the one that I recommend to all my students is Hostaway. Here's why. First off, it has the most reliable calendar syncing of any channel management software in the industry. When someone books on Airbnb, that time slot is instantly blocked off on VRBO and Booking.com. No lag time, no risk of double bookings. It also gives you one centralized inbox for all your guest messages. So instead of jumping between 3 different apps, you can manage all your communication in one central place. But here's the real game changer. Hostaway lets you create automation rules that work across platforms. For example, remember how I mentioned before that you'd want higher rates on VRBO and Booking.com because of their higher fees? Hostaway can do that automatically. Now, the second tool you need is a dynamic pricing tool. If you're listing on multiple platforms, manual pricing just isn't really going to cut it. You need something that can automatically adjust your rates based on demand, events, and seasonal changes. This is where a tool like PriceLabs comes in. It not only helps you optimize your pricing, but can also help you to understand which platform is performing best for your specific property. But here's the thing, just having these tools isn't enough. You need to obviously know how to use them effectively. And that's why inside BNB Tribe, we've got detailed training that shows you absolutely everything you need to know, as well as exclusive discounts on these tools and more. You get over $4,000 in discounts and perks when you join, in addition to all of our training and resources and the incredible community. Now, the link to join is just right in the description down below. All right, now before we wrap up, I do want to share 3 big pitfalls that I see hosts make when they try to expand to multiple platforms. You don't want to miss this. The first mistake is trying to expand too quickly. A lot of hosts get excited about the potential of multiple platforms and try to list on all of them at once. This is almost always a recipe for disaster. Instead, you want to master one platform at a time. Get your systems dialed in on Airbnb first, then expand to either VRBO or Booking.com, depending on your property type. Once you've got that running smoothly, then you can add on a third platform. The second big mistake is using the exact same listing across all platforms. Remember we talked about earlier, each platform attracts different types of guests with different expectations. Your Airbnb listing might focus on the unique experience and local attractions, but your VRBO listing should emphasize family-friendly amenities and practical features. And on Booking.com, you'll want to highlight the professional aspects of your property and any hotel-like amenities that you have to offer. Now, the third mistake is definitely the most costly, and I see it happen all the time. Hosts will set their prices the same across all platforms without considering the different fee structures and guest expectations. Now, this brings us to the million-dollar question. Which platform should you be focusing on? Well, it depends on three main factors. First, what type of property do you have? If you have a larger property, especially one that's great for families, VRBO should be your second platform after Airbnb. But if you've got a smaller urban property, Booking.com might be the better choice. Second, where's your property located? If you're in tourist areas with lots of family vacationers, VRBO can be incredibly powerful. If you're in an urban area or international destination, Booking.com often performs better. And third, what resources do you have available? Managing multiple platforms does take some additional time and effort, especially in the beginning. You need to make sure you have the right systems in place before you expand. Now, once you've gone through these three factors, you should have a pretty clear idea of which platform to expand to first. And we've already walked you through the nuances of how to set up each platform, plus the tools that you need for managing everything effectively. But there is one final step that you absolutely need to nail if you want to be successful, and that's the launch phase. Just like with your first Airbnb launch, once your listing is set up on a new platform, you need to price strategically for the first 30 days. Remember, you're building a reputation on a new platform, so you might need to price a bit lower initially to get your first few bookings and reviews. A good rule of thumb is to start about 10 to 15% below your Airbnb rates for the first month. This helps you get those initial bookings and reviews, which are crucial for visibility on the new platform in the long run. Once you've got all of this set up, give it at least 2 to 4 weeks before making any major changes. This gives you enough data to really understand how your property performs on the new platform. Now, I know this might sound like a whole lot of work up front, and you're right, it does take some time to set it up properly. But once you have these systems in place, managing multiple platforms actually becomes really straightforward and shouldn't take you any extra time. And the payoff can be huge. Most of our successful BNB Tribe members who list on multiple platforms see anywhere from 20 to 40% increases in their overall revenue. But here's the most important thing to remember. You don't have to figure all this stuff out on your own. The strategies I've shared in this video are exactly what we teach inside of BNB Tribe, along with all the tools, all the training, and all the resources that you need to make this successful. If you want to dive deeper into multi-platform hosting, click the link in the description down below to join BNB Tribe. It's just $49 a month. You can cancel absolutely any time, and I guarantee you it'll be worth your time and your money. Literally guarantee it, because we've got 100% money back guarantee. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to see more videos just like this that we post every single week. Drop a comment down below to let me know which platform you're going to host on next. And if you have any questions that I didn't cover in this video, let me know in the comments down below. I read every single comment personally and will do my best to respond as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.